This is the Friday, January 17th, 2020 version of the Market Plus segment, and joining us once again is Naomi Blohm. Naomi, we are heading into Super Bowl season here. We're a couple more playoff games. You're a Packers fan, if I'm not mistaken.
I am.
That's very fitting because we got a question here from Ruben in Wisconsin, who I'm guessing is maybe also a Packers fan, asking what has better odds, 450 corn by the summer or the Packers making it to the Super Bowl?
Well, that is an awesome question. 450 corn is actually, I think that's quite doable, and I think the Packers make it to the Super Bowl. Whether or not they win, we'll see, but I think both actually have decent odds.
All right, I'm personally hoping that it's the Chiefs and the Packers.
That'd be awesome.
Good Midwest football.
We should have like a little bet if that happens.
Yeah, oh, for sure. We'll definitely get on that. But 450 corn by summer, tell me why you think that's going to be plausible here.
Well, I really do, like I said on the show, I think that the yield is smaller than what the USDA let on. They raised the yield on that last report, a convenient way to keep supplies sufficient on paper. And ending stocks, though, are lower. Test weights are across the board down, and that is not factored into the market yet. We'll see that on the quarterly stocks reports going forward. And like I said on the show, the cash market is screaming, we need corn, and the corn isn't quite there. With nearly 10% of the crop not harvested yet in that report that we just had, there's still a lot of room for support to the upside. And if China actually comes in on this trade deal, I don't know that they would buy corn outright from us, but if they do ethanol and if they do DDGs, then that is really fantastic for our marketplace. That would be new demand, because the ethanol that we're using, of course, right here, right now is got its place, but if we could increase that demand, that would be new demand for corn. So that'd be my thought on that.
So the resurvey of acres that's coming at some point, when do you think we'll see USDA maybe adjust production and or yield numbers?
So I'm thinking the USDA would resurvey farmers in spring. So to me, spring means maybe May, but that's hoping that we don't have another crazy year. So it could be June. So the earliest would be May that we could see, I think, a reduction on yield or a change to yield. I don't know that they would tweak the acres any further at that time, but that would be the soonest. May, probably June, and then of course the planting intentions report is at the end of March, and then going into what actually got planted at the end of June. So I think there's a lot of fireworks yet potentially to come, but in the short term, we just have to be a little bit patient.
Okay. Naomi, why does it seem, and we've got a question here from Tommy in Iowa, why does it seem that corn, soybean, and wheat prices seem to all be moving out of sync with each other?
They are moving out of sync with each other. It's because the funds are in the wheat market, and they've been buying wheat, they're long wheat. So that's where the money is at. Wheat had its charge higher already, and the wheat demand is strong. I think you're going to see more wheat used for feed across the country because of the lack of corn that's out there. And the funds are pretty much neutral in the soybean market. They're waiting to see if this trade deal has some immediate gratification of buying that should develop in the coming weeks. And they're still short in corn. So it's the money is where it's at, and that's why the wheat market is up, and that's why everything else is out of whack. But again, seasonally, oftentimes you will see the grain markets work higher late February into early March, and then it's over. The party's over because then they're already thinking about what's going to get planted in the spring, and trade again assumes trendline yield until proven otherwise. But again, with as late as the crop was harvested and the uncertainties that are there, this is going to be a tale of two different crops going forward. We're going to see cash levels for old crop stay strong, and then we're going to see basis levels for new crop almost just be uncertain because we don't know what's out there and what isn't out there yet. So the cash market is going to tell us the truth, and that's where I'm putting my focus on right now, cash.
And we've got two questions here. I'm going to kind of combine them. We've got one asking about planting acres for 2020, 90 to 100 million acres of corn. Is that possible? And also Zach in Lawrence, Nebraska asks, what happens with those 18 million acres of 2019 prevent plant acres in 2020?
Important question. Right now the trade is assuming more corn than beans. That has the ability to shift if we see China doing some immediate buying. I'm also thinking about cotton. Cotton ending stocks are like the lowest they've been in since 2011, 2012. So I'm wondering if we see an increase for cotton acres next year. the fight for acres, I don't think has even occurred yet. There's a lot of potential to come. So I would say of clients that I'm working with, the regular rotation, but some are talking about leaning heavy towards corn, but I think that can change if market conditions allow.
And it seems crazy that, some people don't even have their corn crop out of the ground, and how are they planning ahead when they're still thinking about last year's crop?
Absolutely. And then my thought would be, if we have another horrible spring, this year the farmer did a good job, and they pushed past those prevent plant dates, and they did their best to get the crop in the ground. It has been just, I think, emotionally so hard on so many producers to still see your crop in the field and not have your fall field work done. That'd be 2 years in a row that's happened. So now I'm wondering if next year, if we don't have the perfect spring, do guys actually take prevent plant acres and say, forget about it. I'm not even going to deal with it. So I think 2020 has an ability to be a very volatile price year. And the more I look at long-term charts for corn and soybeans both, we've been consolidating, and the market is really, I think, pent up and ready to have an explosive move, but we just need the fundamental catalyst to make that happen.
Naomi, I want to turn our attention back to China. I know we spent a lot of time during the main program talking about it. We've got 2 more questions I wanted to make sure we got to ask today. The first of which coming to us from Mike on Twitter. How will these trade agreements be accounted for in February's WASDE report?
The trade deal will be accounted for only if we see an immediate jump on exports. If we don't see an immediate jump on exports, I don't think the USDA does any budges. They might just leave the February WASDE report unchanged from January. That way they can allow change movement down the road, but they won't add the demand on it. I don't think they will at all, but I don't think that they would reduce anything. We just need to wait and see.
When do you think they will add the demand onto it? After we see actual export?
Once they know the crop is in the ground this spring and it's safe to say demand is higher, boy, I sound like other people who are conspiracy against the USDA, but it seems to be the trend. They want to make sure that we can get this crop in the ground before any truths come out about the reality of the situation. Some other analysts are saying that it would be not until the September quarterly stocks report that we know the truth about how small this year's crop was, and then it's safe to say it then because there's a new crop ready to be harvested. So it's frustrating, but this is what we have to work with.
All right. Naomi, one final question for you coming to us from Glenn in Bryan, Ohio, wanting to know the U.S. Treasury has declared that China is no longer a currency manipulator. How will this affect the markets and trade with China?
I don't know is the answer. I was wondering the same thing. I thought it was, when that news came out, I thought, okay, they're serious about getting this trade deal done because they had to say something nice about China as far as the give and take goes. The U.S. dollar has been working just a little bit lower, so that, of course, is good for our exports. We'll see. We'll see what happens as far as if there is continued currency manipulation or not. I'm sure there's other things that are happening behind the scenes in Washington, D.C. to try to level the playing field, and let's just hope that continues.
Fundamentally, obviously, we've got the U.S.-China trade deal kind of signed, still waiting to see what those purchases will be, but what are the other big fundamentals here that could move us one way or the other in the markets?
So again, keeping an eye on outside markets, crude oil demand is actually strong. Chinese imports of crude oil up 9% on the year, so that's something I'm always keeping an eye on. And then it just boils down to supply and demand around the world. Will the wheat production around the world come down? That'll be significant because if our corn crop is smaller here, we've been using more wheat for feed. So that's something to keep an eye on. And of course, the continued weather in South America. So far, little hiccups as far as production goes, but nothing big yet. But now we're starting to talk about the second crop of corn in Brazil maybe being a little smaller. Brazil's JBS actually has been importing corn from Argentina. So that tells me that their demand is strong for their beef export market, but it tells me also that they maybe exported too much corn too soon before. So a lot of moving parts. Don't blink. There's still a lot to come in 2020. It's going to be a wild year.
All right, Naomi Blohm, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Join us again next week when we will be looking at a job market that retrains programs based on economic and personal development, and Arlen Suderman comes to the market-to-market table. Until then, thanks for watching, listening, or reading. I'm Delaney Howell. Have a great week.